Among the imperialists, they have a vision of the world that I will explain to you. To them, the world is summarized in a triangle. You will see the triangle in most of their insignia. Perhaps you don't understand, but to them, the world is summarized in a triangle. At the top of the triangle is the empire of good, and the empire of good is them. They are prosperity. They are everything positive. They are entitled to all the happiness in this world. They have the right to all the riches. They impose their worldview, their vision, their way of life. That's why during the conquest, they would come to our lands and say they had discovered our lands, because to them, we were savages and had nothing like them. So, they call us natives, and it's them, the people, who have all the rights. To them, the world must operate as they want. To illustrate, I'll take a few examples. Look at their movies. They have brainwashed their people into believing they're superior and entitled to everything. You won't say otherwise. In all their films that they propagate, you will always find the villains are either Russians, South Americans, or blacks playing the roles of drug dealers, pimps, human traffickers, and recently, Arabs playing the roles of terrorists. This is how they perceive the world. On the economic side, who among us hasn't labeled Chinese products as cheap goods? But today, I can tell you that we were all wrong because China has advanced technology, and it's in China that most of these countries source their goods, put their brand on them, and sell them to us as their own. Look around. Entrepreneurs in construction won't deny that all their equipment today is Chinese. Those in transportation won't deny it either. They lied to us. We traveled the world in the past 20 months looking for companies and factories, and we realized everything leads back to China. Yet through their propaganda, they made us hate all Chinese products, making us believe that only their products were good. To better understand what I'm saying, it's simple. To better understand what I will say, we need to go back a little in time. You need to go back in time and read about the Tsars, Mongol conquests, Persian, Turkish and Ottoman empires. Read their history and you will understand why the world is the way it is. At the base of the triangle, there are two empires. On one side, the empire of evil, and on the other, the empire of slaves. This is how they see the world. Who do they call the empire of evil? Those I just mentioned. Go back in time, read, and you will understand why they see them as the empire of evil. They believe they must fight and eradicate the empire of evil because it embodies the devil. They communicate this and make their people understand it that way. This is why after World War II, in the 1980s, I will take the case of Russia. All schemes were implemented to collapse it under President Gorbachev, orchestrated by President Ronald Reagan. Three main strategies caught our attention. First, they went to Saudi Arabia and asked them to lower the oil price from $35 to $7 to collapse the Russian economy. Alongside that, remember something. The second strategy, they armed the Taliban, who were received by President Ronald Reagan at the White House with CIA-supplied Stinger surface-to-air missiles to fight the Russians. Later, they pretended to fight the Taliban themselves. Go figure. The third strategy was a bluff, the Star Wars project, which led Gorbachev to create the Paulus project, sinking Russia further. Once Russia collapsed, those who claimed to be the empire of good began to gloat until Vladimir Putin's team came to revive Russia. The empire of evil, according to them, has suffered greatly. Look at Iran today, facing all possible sanctions. Look at how they describe certain people. Through communication, they can manage to make you hate a people or love a people. They are very strong in communication and use all possible channels. Look at the wars that are raging. They create them for their own interest. Finally, according to them, the empire of slaves is Africa and some South American peoples. In their minds, as I mentioned earlier, Africa belongs to them. Our lands, our riches belong to them. And they can't conceive that Africans could emancipate, rise and challenge them. And for this reason, they believe Africans are easy to manipulate and driven by emotions. They will always find an African to fight against his brother. And it has always been like that. Unfortunately, through their communication, they made us hate our own skin color. In many cultures, including in Burkina Faso, mourning was symbolized by the color blue. When a woman lost her husband, she wore blue clothes for a period. They came and told us that black symbolizes mourning, the devil, mediocrity, everything bad. Unfortunately, we swallowed this so much that we wear black when mourning. We need to wake up because this is how they see the world. They are the empire of good. Others are the empire of evil. And we are the empire of slaves. This is the imperialist worldview. You need to understand this. I want to make a point to some intellectuals who seem to want to preach for the imperialists. Do they ignore this part of history? I'm not making this up. It's declassified. You can find everything I said in libraries or online. Don't these intellectuals know the history of this world? Maybe it's dishonesty, or a few dollars that make them preach for the imperialists. Our intellectuals must always preach to enlighten our people, our masses, so they understand where they come from and how the imperialists see them. Let's take the example of some wars. You followed the Iraq War, a big lie about weapons of mass destruction. Some US senators did everything to get proof but couldn't. Remember, several people resigned from the CIA after this war. Evidence was fabricated with the help of Western secret services. We remember that Niger was accused at the time of selling uranium to Iraq. And the same scenario played out recently with accusations of clandestinely selling uranium to Iran. This is déjà vu. They made this claim but found no proof. Even the United Nations eventually found no tangible evidence of weapons of mass destruction. Their objective was to destroy Iraq, create the Islamic State just like they created the Taliban state in the 1980s. Armed them, and later pretended to fight them. Understand the game. This game has gone on too long. We need to wake up, understand, and fight for our future. All these wars, Iraq, Syria, Libya, were fabricated to destabilize the world for their benefit, ensuring that no one could ever match them. Today, we see the same in the Sahel with terrorism imposed on us, because they will always find blacks who will get excited and take up arms against their black brothers. This is what we are living. They have never left this model, and unfortunately, many people agree with them for a few dollars. They sell themselves cheaply to the enemy, to the imperialist, and fight against their brothers.
This is the journey to one Africa.